Hello everyone, this is Namernan, and today I will be doing an overview of every game that is getting played, or that has been played, in MWP 7 Week 4. So, unfortunately, I didn't do this early enough before the stats got updated, so they're a bit up to date and will spoil a little bit of what happens, but some trends that I do notice: Dragon rose a little bit, Water fell a tiny bit, but still doing pretty good in this tour, I'd say. Dark, still doing pretty good. Steel, actually doing really well, with a 66% win rate. Steel being the type that people said was going to fall off this tour, but it seems like that's not the case. And we'll probably find out this week why that is. Flying, actually 30%, which out of 12 games is very shocking. But flying is one of the types that people want to make sure that they can beat, because, as you've seen last week, flying can be a very hard type to break. So people are probably trying to make sure that they have preparations for that. And Gliscor is seen as like a big demon in this meta game right now. Ground is doing alright, fighting is doing pretty decent. Fire, once again, lowish win rate. Fairy doing still very well. But yeah, so we'll just take a look at two different types for looking at trends. So we'll look at Dark and we'll also look at Water. So the reason I want to look at Dark is because Dark has a lot of variety. Dragon, not so much, but Dark has a lot of variety in stuff that they bring. There's Shiba Unbound teams, there's non-Greninja teams, there's Darkrai teams. There's teams that use Bisharp, there's teams that don't use Bisharp. Ignore this Urshifu, by the way. I'm pretty sure it's just only there because someone probably didn't send in their Water Urshifu. This spawn is not unbanned, don't you worry. But, I don't know why Walking Lake is here either, but yeah. Dark, doing pretty well. For itself, okay, yeah, someone messed up on the sheet. For this, I don't know why there's a bunch of water types on here, but yeah. Ignoring those, you've only seen Rock Brought once, so it seems like people do prefer having someone else be the special hit taker, namely Hoopa, it would appear. Very little Sableye usage, which is not super shocking, because the Screen Sableye set is mainly popularized on Ghost, not so much Dark. I'm not sure if we're going to see that in this tournament, but we'll be excited if I do get to see it. So far, the most used Mon, let me see who it is so far. It would be Masskeauuu, which is not shocking. It seems like it's a tie between Masskeauuu and Ting-Lu, in fact. Ting-Lu having a wide variety of sets that it can use, and it's just a very versatile Pokemon in general. It's very good offensively, well, not offensively, but it's very good at creating offensive pressure. It's good at being a defensive Pokemon as well. It can mess up certain defensive cores with Whirlwind and Taunt and Reanimation, and it can do a lot. So it's not shocking that Mon is very good. We've seen very little Roaring Moon this tournament, which I guess is not super shocking, because I was told that Roaring Moon Dark was not something that was very good, and this tournament is showing that that is the case, because both times it was brought, it has lost. So that's a good thing to know. Mandibule's still doing pretty well. Greninja doing well. Darkrai, I personally don't understand how Darkrai is supposed to be used on Dark still, but from what I've seen, it seems to be like a very good bulky special attacker. It just seems to be just overall really solid. I just have a hard time fitting it on teams because I think Masskeauuu and Greninja are just really good together, but fitting Darkrai in there is probably not too challenging if you build correctly. So let's move on to Water. So Water, still see it, a lot of Alumamolo usage. See Rescue Legion F usages, which is good. Someone brought Stall Water, it seems. You see Glowking, a couple of Manaphy. Most used Mon so far is still Susui and Samurott. That seems to be the Mon that keeps Water together. Excuse me. There's also Toxapex. Toxapex is actually the most used Pokemon. which is a bit shocking, but I guess it's not that surprising considering it's such a very solid defensive staple. It can be specially or physically defensive, it can create progress with toxic spikes or regular toxic. Infestation makes it a threat against certain Pokemon like flyers that don't have taunt. It can definitely do a lot. And I'm very shocked that there's been a lot of Ogerpon-less water. This was not a trend I was expecting because I knew that a lot of people talk about Ogerpon and Ogerpon-less water. And usually when I hear them talk about it, it's usually them saying that pondless water is usually not as good. But clearly, that is not the truth, or it is at least changed as of this tournament, because this amount of usage for a Pokemon that's supposed to be very good is very shocking. But then again, a lot of Pokemon have very little usage that are considered pretty good on this type, so it shouldn't be entirely shocking that water is doing this. Greninja, the lack of Greninja usage is actually truly shocking to me, because this isn't even like a water has variety thing. This is just straight up Greninja's just not being used, and it has a 0% win rate as well. This is a big shot. Greninja's viability might take a hit after this tournament, if this pattern keeps up. But yeah, that's enough rambling on about stats. Let's get on to the games, which is what we're actually here for. So first up, we have Logice versus Dieu and Amphibien. And we have a Dragon Mirror. So you already know how this is going to go. This is going to be a very, very quick sack war between the two of them, and they're going to try and pick some early advantages as quickly as possible. See, Logice is using a Walking Wake team, while Dieu Amphibien is using a Raging Bolt team. Also, Dieu seems to be using a more offensive team with Latias, possibly with Healing Wish, and Garchomp with probably the mix set with Rocks, if I had to guess. And Logice is one of the few people who are using Fusien, but unfortunately we now know that he probably loses. But let's at least see how this game goes. So we lead with Latios into Dragapult. They both switch out into Garchomp and Goodra. Logice switches out again into Latios to probably catch the Garchomp on Rocks. Yep. You see the Luster Purge come out. He gets the Split F drop on Goodra. Is it Specs? Nope, it is not. It is indeed non-Specs. Is it Soul Dew? Well, we'll have to find out later. But it is swapped out with Dragon Tail. Xiri and Goodra taking a ton of damage though. We get our Caledon Rocks up. Unfortunately, that does give Raging Bolt a turn to set up. The Draco Meteor is slammed on Goodra, and we get the Dragon Tail forcing out the Raging Bolt and letting Dragon Bolt in. We see the instant switch into Garchomp. I think that switch indicates that it may or may not be special attacking Dragapult rather than physical. So we do see the spikes from Garchomp, so it is the entry hazard lead set. We see Dragon Tail come out, forcing out our Caledon. Dragon Tail seeing a lot of usage, very good usage this game. Garchomp getting the Earthquake Security KO against Goodra. That means he's down his Draco Meteor resist, and any other Draco Meteors that get thrown this game will result in a sack from the end of Logice. But Logice does take out Raging Bolt, which is very good. Because whenever Raging Bolt comes in, it's kind of a guaranteed KO. So getting rid of that is actually very good. Switch into Arcaladon. The U-turn from Dragapult, boosting its defenses with Stamina, and he goes into Latios. Latios should be able to threaten this out, but unfortunately it does miss the Draco Meteor. But it's okay, because Arcaladon also misses the Thunder Wave. Our Draco Meteor will connect and defeat the Arcaladon. Walking Wake is coming in to take vengeance on its fallen friend. It does live the subsequent Draco Meteor from Latios, but now it is at 8 HP that will not allow it to come back in, so Logice is forced to sack it. It does a decent amount of damage to Goodra, but it does end up perishing. Here comes Dragapult. Is it physical or is it special? It is special, so you do see the Shadow Ball. Dieu Amphibien trying to protect as much as possible. living crucially on 1% HP, but it's not that matters that much because this is not stall. We aren't going to run out of Shadow Ball PP by the time this game is over, so Shadow Ball will be used to KO Goodra. Garchomp comes in to threaten out Dragapult. Dragon Tail is used KOing Latios. Let's see what Dragapult does now. The Draco Meteor comes through, KOing Garchomp. Now Archaludon comes in. Archaludon taking a good amount from the -2 Draco Meteor. And Thunder Wave comes out to hinder Dragapult. Dieu Amphibian responded with a Draco Meteor of his own, KOing Dragapult successfully, and now here comes Roaring Moon, but Roaring Moon may not be able to do anything because, yep, Archaludon's defense boost and defensive nature allows it to easily tank an Outrage and KO Body Press, and so that is how the game goes. A very solid game. As I said before, this is going to be a quick game because this is just Dragon versus Dragon. It's going to be a lot of sacking, a lot of offensive plays, a lot of quick defeats, stuff of that nature. But yeah, not a lot of comments to make. All the teams seem pretty standard, so let's just move on to the next match. Alright, so we have Mind Gaming versus Scarfire. Scarfire using Dark with no Greninja and Hoopa Unbound, while Mind Gaming is using a Water team with Slowking and Basculegion Female. This is Basculegion Female's first appearance in the tournament, as far as I'm aware, so let's see what this mon has, because this has been a mon that's been talked about as being potentially good for a while on Water. So let's see how it does. Yaskarada comes in, instantly becoming a threat, but Scarfire has assumed that it is Focus Sash, so he switches out immediately. Tinglu does use the taunt, instantly stopping Toxapex from getting Toxic Spikes off. A Ruination from the Force Switch, taking off 50% of Swampert HP. The Tinglu just making so much progress against the Swampert, getting the rocks off, and also just doing a lot of damage to Swampert. Swampert can't come back in, at least I don't think so. It might have heavy duty boots, so it is possible that Swampert can come back in, but yeah, we see the U-turn from Urshifu, and my game goes into Glowking, or not Glowking, regular Slowking, oh my goodness. I haven't had to call it regular Slowking in a while, but yeah, here comes the Samurott off the Chilly Reception swap. Samurott KOing with Sacred Sword, switches out into Toxapex instantly, but the T-Punch does come through and does a ton of damage as Choice Band damage. So we know that the Yaskarada is Choice Band now. Samurott going to click Ceaseless Edge and get some spikes up. Urshifu Scarf. Well, we do not know for sure yet, but it does do 50% to Mandiba, so if I know my counts properly, I think that isn't banned. I think that is just regular Urshifu, but I could be wrong. Flower Trick does come out and completely destroy the Slowking. Flower Trick putting a lot of pressure on Toxapex as well. We see T-Spikes coming out. Yep, it is heavy duty boots on the Swampert, and he's able to take the Flower Trick. Toxapex comes back in. Scarfire switching out and going into Hoopa. Hoopa suffering from poison and hazard damage. Here comes Basculegion. Basculegion dies to a Thunderbolt and does nothing, unfortunately. I'm really sad. I wanted to see what that mon had to offer, but not this game, it seems. Sucker Punch failed to connect on the Hoopa, but Sacred Sword does manage to KO the Samurott. I'm not sure if that's Speed Tie or not. Probably was. Yaskarada comes in. T-Punch doing a ton of damage because he doesn't have Swampert anymore, so you can't do 50-50. And Yaskarada likely going to take the game here. Force out due to Samurott's presence with Sucker Punch. Hoopa not doing much better into Samurott either. Roaring Moon comes in. Shifu Rapid Strike comes out, but the U-turn does come through. Does the Aqua Jet? Yep, the Aqua Jet is revealed, and we do see Masquerada fall. Can Roaring Moon win this, though, is the question. One Outrage. Suyin Samurai comes in, survives the Outrage, and KOs with Sacred Sword. And yeah, that'll be the game. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see female Basque Legion do anything in this game, but this was a very, very unique team from Mind Gaming here, but it just shows, once again, how versatile water is as a type. You can kind of bring a wide variety of different Pokemon on water, and it can still do really well. Water's versatility in this tournament is proving to be very, very useful, because even in the face of a very scary threat like Thunder Punch, Flower Trick, Masquerada, even in the face of that, it still is able to maneuver with a good pilot. It's able to maneuver its way around the matchup and deal with the Pokemon very well. Very well played Mind Gaming for playing around Masquerada like that. But also good job to Scarfire because they made some good plays as well. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. Alright, this game we have Crumbs versus Fro1. Fro1, thankfully, not using flying, and is using a Dragon Team. Crumbs is using a Steel Team. The Steel Team is with Excadrill and Hisuian Goodra as the only notable changed mons from the usual standard Steel setup, and then Fro1 is just using a standard very offensive Raging Bolt team. So let's see how this match goes. Heatran starting the match out, losing its balloon instantly as Archaludon body presses it away. Heatran getting a Lava Plume off, no burn unfortunately, and a stamina boost. Looking very scary. We do know that Archaludon is not Choice Scarf though, it is indeed. It is indeed a leftover, so it's the standard defensive set. Here comes Goodra taking a Shadow Ball, easily knocking off the leftovers from Crocrumb's Archaludon, so we know that that one is also defensive. Draco Meteor coming through on Crocrumb's side, but going to do nothing on the protection. This is Goodra. Excuse me. Fro1 Archaludon doing a ton of damage to Crocrumb's Archaludon, but not enough to KO. And Crocrumb's responds with his own Draco Meteor, which does KO the Archaludon. Garchomp comes in and blanks an Earthquake against Crocrumb's Corviknight. We see a Roost come through, but the Roost does nothing, as Garchomp does not use a move that can damage it. Brave Bird is used, but it takes a ton of damage from Recoil and Chip, and damn, that is 50% just from touching Garchomp once. And that was in an unfavorable position. Another Spike Layer is set up though. 3 Spike Layers are set up. Brave Bird is used, but once again, it takes a ton of damage from Garchomp. Here comes the Dragon Tail though. Corviknight getting a Roost off before that, which is very good. Good Crocrumbs. Excadrill's forced out and forced out again due to Garchomp threatening a KO. Archaludon is put in and dies to spikes, and we get the reveal that Dragon Bolt is physical with Dragon Darts. Crocrumbs puts in Goodra, and Dragon Tails to Dragon Bolt, swapping it out for Raging Bolt. Goodra is KO'd by Raging Bolt's Draco Meteor, and Excadrill is put in. You see the Dragon Bolt get put in place of Raging Bolt to take the Earthquake. As due to Bolt Breaker existing, Latios cannot switch into the Earthquake even if Fro1 wanted to predict it. The Healing Wish coming out and putting Garchomp back to full HP. Seeing Goodra being put out as a response to Gholdengo. Gholdengo putting out a Make It Rain that does very little damage to Goodra. A Shadow Ball is thrown, but to no avail as Goodra is able to tank it very easily because Seed Berry removed via knockoff from Goodra. Gudra continuing to knock off and slowly heal with leftovers. Gholdengo now using Nasty Plot, but is forced out by Dragon Tail. Heatran now KO'd due to hazards. We see Excadrill come out as a result. Excadrill possibly looking scary if it is Choice Scarf. Chooses to use Rapid Spin instead, but that will be stopped by Garchomp unless crumbs predicts. No, he is forced into doing it because Excadrill can't come back in. And he spins and isn't able to get those hazards removed, which is not very good. And he also loses his Excadrill as well. Raging Bolt able to KO the Corviknight and likely able to also KO the Gholdengo, who's severely weakened. Gholdengo does use Shadow Wall, but to no avail, as Raging Bolt clicks the Thunderbolt and is able to KO. Very, very solid game played by Full One here. Kept his composure and didn't really falter too much, even with the loss of Archelodon early. Play very consistently, and there isn't really much else to say. Most the stats here were very standard, so there isn't really much to comment on. Just a very solid game played by Full One. I'm just happy he didn't pick Flying again, thankfully. But let's move on to the next match. Fogbound Lake versus LBN. We have a water team with Walking Wake and Room Wash against a fire team. This is a classic Monotype matchup. But interestingly... Actually, no, there's nothing interesting. Fire using Sificons as usual. But yeah, Fire can win this due to Sun, but as I mentioned before, in last week, when this matchup happened, Walking Wake is a photosynthesis unit on water. So, Fogbound Lake has to be very careful about his usage of Sun here, because if done improperly, the Walking Wake could become a problem that he cannot handle. So, let us see how this goes. So we lead right away with a Earthbound Ogerpon, but it's forced out due to Shifu existing. Shifu does use U-turn, and here it comes, the photosynthesis Walking Wake. And the water moves are just gonna come out blazing. Just Hydro Steam immediately. Cerulege does come in and is able to threaten it out thanks to Focus Sash, but doesn't stay in, doesn't switch out. It dodges the Ceaseless Edge and uses Bitter Blade. Fogbound Lake clicking Sword Stance. Fogbound Lake in a very profitable position right now. Thankfully, Poltergeist, I believe, doesn't proc the, does not proc the Baneful Bunker. Poltergeist does manage to KO the Singing Samurott. He's in the driver's seat here. He swaps out because he knows that Cerulege is his very ideal win con. Surging Strikes coming onto the Heatran, and likely we are going to see a lost Pokemon on the side of Fogbound Lake. Yep, and Heatran will go down. Will he put Ninetales back in now? He will. Swampert comes in. The Will-O-Wisp is used to slightly weaken Swampert, but Swampert is looking to get those rocks up and stop the Cerulege from coming back in, but he instead goes for the Flip Turn into Walking Wake. Very good play by LBN, as it now forces Fogbound Lake into an unfavorable position. Hydro Steam, boosted by Sun, boosted by Photosynthesis, and Stab. We do see the Hydro Steam also hit the Cerulege, leaving it on its Focus Sash. We see the Sneak come out. Bitter Blade able to KO the Swampert. But Urshifu Rapid Strike does threaten the KO, forcing out the Cerulege. And Surging Strikes does connect, and will, assuming this Urshifu is Scarf, which I believe it is, yep it is. Surging Strikes does KO the Ninetales, and now Sun is gone for good. Surging Strikes connecting onto Ogerpon Hearthflame. Ogerpon Hearthflame is Horn Leech, but unfortunately the Horn Leech may not be enough. It does not heal enough to keep the Ogerpon healthy. We do see Cerulege come out. Cerulege getting the Shadow Sneak off, but it's too weak to KO Walking Wake at this point. So Walking Wake will come in, tank a Shadow Sneak, and KO it with Hydro Steam. Very nice game from the side of LBN. Walking Wake once again proving to be a massive problem for Fire to deal with. I wonder if there will be any optimizations on Fire user's side for that Pokemon, or if there even is anything they can do about it besides trying to outmaneuver the Mom. But yeah, unfortunately we don't get to see Rotom do anything, but it was probably a standard Nasty Plot set. And Walking Wake really stole the show here, just clicking Hydro Steam and just being a massive threat due to speed boost from Photosynthesis. But yeah, very good Sun counter by LVN, and that's pretty much all I have to say about this game. So let's move on to the next. We have Fusien versus Doflamingo. Doflamingo opting for a Rain team with Kingdra and Primarina, while Fusien is using Fighting. Very standard fighting team as well, with Gallade and Iron Hands. So, not really much to know about either team, besides obviously the Primarina being a very nice bring. This Rain team seems very unstandard though, because usually you would use Masskeauuu on these types of teams, but it seems like Doflamingo is instead opting for Urshifu as his physical attacker of choice, or physical Rain user of choice, and obviously Hisuian Samurott does benefit from Rain, but is probably being used for its other utility rather than it being a physical attacker. So let's see how this match goes. Samurott is forced in first, and Iron Valiant does force the Samurott out. Toxapex uses its eject button, which is very common on Rainwater. The Draining Kiss coming through on Primarina, but it does take damage from the Rocky Helmet as it is a special contact move. Pelipper comes in, instantly gets the Drizzle off. Heavy-duty Boots now gone. Pelipper's popping out, likely going into Kingdra. Yep, Kingdra comes in. Surf is used to KO the Great Tusk, but Gallade might be coming in. Yeah, Gallade's coming in. Gets a crit Surf, which is very unideal for Fusien because it needs every little bit of HP on Gallade as it can get. Especially since it needs to deal with Karina, but it's too low to be useful now, so Ceaseless Edge is used. The Iron Valiant does come back out. Sucker Punch used. It is KO'd by Moonblast. Life Orb slowly chipping away at its HP. You see Urshifu Rapid Strike come out on Doflamingo's side, and Fusien responds with his own Urshifu Rapid Strike, easily taking the Surging Strikes. Toxapex to put it in. And also easily takes the Surging Strikes. See a Sword Stance come through on the side of Fusien, but Toxapex threatens with a Poison Jab. Surging Strike's still doing a decent amount to Toxapex, but Toxapex probably going to recover this off. Yep. Clean to no progress being made. Surging Strikes is used again. It looks like he's trying to bait out a Haze as to force a recover from Toxapex. Fortunately, Toxapex does click Poison Jab instead, and Fusien is now in the driver's seat. Surging Strikes will get used again. And now here comes Doflamingo's Urshifu, who is likely going to be Choice Scarf. Manages to get the KO on Fusion's Urshifu, and now Urshifu swaps out of the Steezler. He uses Close Combat on Toxapex. Toxapex easily able to tank the Close Combat, but Doflamingo going for a possible Predict with Primarina. It appears the Sneasler might be Choice Scarf, so yeah, I think that the Sneasler is Choice Scarf. So Primarina decides to stay in, click Draining Kiss, and gets some of his HP back. Iron Valiant does come out though. Iron Valiant probably going to use Moonblast here. Nope, it uses Thunderbolt as there is no Ground Immunity on the scene actually. Super Rapid Strike coming back out. See Close Combat used, it's just enough HP to KO. Iron Hand's able to take a Close Combat, and return with a Drain Punch. Iron Hand's likely going to KO the Primarina as well. Yep. And just like that, Fusion wins the match. Now, one can argue that Doflamingo's lack of a Legend community resulted in this match being difficult, but I would be one to disagree, because the Kingdra was able to work around the fact that he had no ground immunity on his team. As you can see, Thunderbolt wasn't even played that much, and Iron Hands barely got to play. He only got to play at the late game. But yeah, his offensive pressure was just so much that Fusion had to respond defensively a lot. But eventually Fusion was able to break through his Pokemon effectively, even through the Haxon Gallade. And through that play, he was able to successfully maneuver around Doflamingo's team, which could have very well have taken the match, but Fusion was able to outmaneuver Doflamingo in this game. So very well played to both players this match. And we shall move on to the next. We have Clean versus RindaOkami. Clean using Electric with no Oricorio, interesting, versus Dragon. Dragon, obviously one of the meta types that Electric is usually not brought up because of, so let's see how Clean is going to try and make this matchup work. Regieleki is led and starts off with Reflect. Alright, so we're getting immediate screen set up from the side of Regieleki. Regieleki actually swapped out. Looks like it's trying to preserve HP to come in again. We see Rotom trying to abuse the screens as a setup. Soon Goodra is put in. Substitute is used on the side of Rotom. Here comes Dragon Bolt. Rotom using another nasty plot, but Clean has to be careful here because, yep, Dragon Bolt has Infiltrator instead of Clear Body, so it actually is able to KO Rotom through the screens. Iron Hands comes in and is able to use Ice Punch. Ooh, an unlucky crit prevents it from getting the KO on Dragon Bolt though, which is very unfortunate. I see a Volt Switch come out on the side of Regieleki, boosting Archaludon's defense with Stamina. Raging Bolt coming out as a result, KOing the Archaludon very easily with Draco Meteor. Combo coming out though and looking very scary. Claiming Scales doing a lot of damage to Zapdos. Zapdos is able to hit the raw Hurricane though and KO Como very easily. See a Protect come out on the side of Zapdos as well. Dragapult blanking its Dragon Darts into it. We see Magnezone come in. Its balloon does get popped. Discharge doing very little damage to Raging Bolt. Here comes Regieleki to take the Draco Meteor. And here comes Clean's Raging Bolt. Clean's Raging Bolt doing half of Goodra's HP, but it is going to be weakened, so he is forced to swap. Magnezone comes out. Could have potentially trapped the Goodra, but unfortunately he was forced out by Dragon Tail. Very well played by Rindo. Zapdos uses Protect to preserve its leftovers from Goodra's knockoff. We do see Magnezone come back in, but Rindo reads it again and is able to go straight into its Raging Bolt. Magnezone doing very little damage to Raging Bolt with its Body Press. As Zapdos comes in, RindaOkami clicking Calm Mind to try and get another round of Draco Meteor. Clean using Substitute in front of the Zapdos. It looks like Clean is looking to try and stall it out, but he does actually end up swapping back into Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt not going to be able to, actually is able to KO enemy Raging Bolt. Not sure if it was Speak High or not. We don't know who was modest or who wasn't. But yeah, we do see Dragon Bolt click Dragon Darts. Latias is put in and Zapdos is put in as a response. Let's see, protect on the side of Zapdos. Do we see... Nope, no healing wish. We see Psychic come out. Raging Bolt put in to take the Psychic. Psychic not critting, and Latios is going to get KO'd as a result. But can Zapdos clean up this endgame, as Dragon Bolt will be able to kill Raging Bolt very easily with its Dragon Darts. Can Zapdos clean this endgame? Let's see. Protect is used. It does not look like Zapdos was able to take it. So, very close game, considering the matchup. But it looked like Clean did have some thoughts going into the Dragon matchup. Very tanky, Iron Hand set. The screens with Rotom was going to be very scary, but fortunately, Dragon Bolt's Infiltrator did prevent him from being able to do that. Because not only does Infiltrator go through Substitute, it also ignores screens. So, Dragon Bolt was just going to be able to do full damage through the screens. So he basically just completely invalidated Rotom's setup attempt with that Pokemon, which is very sad. But the attempt was there, and I believe that this was definitely winnable on the side of Clean. Fortunately, Rinda made a few very good plays, crucially during the mid games, that allowed them to outmaneuver the team. But very well played to Clean for making this team almost getting a very big win against a common Dragon team. But yeah, fortunately, Brenda did play just a little bit better. But let's move on to Kev versus Snow Xiri. Sorry, Kev versus Xiri. Now, Kev is using a Fat Flying team, and Xiri is using a somewhat standard Steel team. Notably lacking a Sword Stance user, but it does have Hisuian Goodra, possibly because of the prevalence of Sunfire, so probably wanted to make sure it didn't lose to that. But yeah, let's see how this match goes. Kev's team looks, I wouldn't say it's very standard, but it's kind of just, it's a flying team. We'll just say that. It's not bad, it's just a flying team. I really can't even describe it, because flying just kind of does what it wants. But yeah, we do see both fleas go in, Torius immediately swapped out. We see Skarmory get put in, Goodra taking Chip from Rocky Helmet. Goldega is put in, and we see spikes come down on the side of Kev. Kev switching into Zapdos, Goldego getting a really big Shadow Ball off into the Zapdos. Zapdos unable to really take those Shadow Balls very well, so Kev is forced into Tornadus, who is able to take the Shadow Ball and knock off, getting rid of Archelodon's leftovers. And we see the U-turn, Tornadus now healing up with the Regenerating. Into Corviknight, Corviknight going to take a Thunderbolt from the Archelodon, but it's able to take it pretty well. Stealth Rock is used to pressure Kev's team. Zapdos coming in and does click Heat Wave, but is unable to get the KO on Archelodon. Tornadus comes in, it is likely Assault Vest due to the lack of heavy duty boots. It misses its Heat Wave, very unfortunately, and uses U-turn. It looks like Goodra is not gooey, and it looks like it may instead be Shell Armor. So, as to prevent it from getting hexed, which, I mean, that makes sense. Landorus is put in, but it does not click a Earthquake, it uses U-turn instead. Goodra still clicking Dragon Tail, getting a lot of rock shuffling off on flying. Thunder Punch is used, allowing Kev to, or forcing Kev to go into Skarmory. Goodra, once again, clicking Dragon Tail, getting a lot of work done, shuffling around the Stealth Rock damage onto Kev's team. Knockoff is used this time, but it does no damage to Skarmory. Here comes Goldenga. Goldenga going to be very scary with its Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball getting the KO on Corviknight. Tornadus now comes in. Trying to threaten Doflamingo's. I think it may be choice spikes, but I'm not 100% sure. Tornadus uses U-turn. Goes back in Skirmer. You see the spikes come out on Skirmer's side. Knockoff is easy again, getting a crit, but not a very impactful crit. Doflamingo does come out. See a Make It Rain come through, getting the KO on Dragonite. Kev in a very precarious situation here. Tornadus does come out. Goodra put in, but taking a lot of spikes damage. Unless it's the life do set, that damage is going to become very important later. Do we get the shuffle? No shuffle until Lander is very unfortunate for Kev. Do you see the U-turn come out though? Skarmory coming back in, but still taking that Stealth Rock chip. Dragon Tail forcing in Landers this time. So let's see, is this the... No, it appears to not be the... I believe... Was it called the Steel Pillar set? I actually cannot remember what it was called, but obviously it's not a SmackDown Source Stance set. It is instead a utility set, it appears. So we see the Rapid Spin come out. Heat Wave unfortunately missing the Iron Treads, which may have been crucial. I don't think it would have KO'd, but it's very unfortunate that it does miss regardless. Make It Rain coming through, and KOing Tornadus. Landorus is in, does click the Earthquake. Oh, it may be Choice Scarf Rocks, actually. Yeah, it appears to be Choice Scarf Rocks. And Corviknight is going to click Bulk Up, and I believe that should be the game, because I don't think Kev's team can really beat this. Oh, it even has the taunt to stop Skarmory from boosting down. Very well played by Xiri. Xiri's been playing very well this entire tournament, actually. But, yeah. Fortunate, Kev was unable to perfectly wall the Choice Specs Gholdengo. Or, I'm assuming it's Choice Specs. I don't think Gholdengo's supposed to be doing that much damage normally, but... I don't know, maybe it is. But, yeah. The Gholdengo was just a big threat to Kev's team, and he was just unable to truly wall it. Even if Kev had something like Articuno on his team, he would have still had a very hard time switching between it and Make It Rain, and making those hard 50-50s on top of having rocks and having to deal with Goodra knockoff. It would have been a very challenging game, regardless of the mons he chose. So, very well played, very good building from Xiri, or Xiri's team, and very well played to Xiri for playing this well. Kev played well as well, but fortunately, this team was teched properly to beat Flying, so let's move on to the next match. We have Rio Vidal versus Azick, Dragon versus Ogerpon Water. Ogerpon Rain Water, in fact. Azick using a Roaring Moon Dragon team, with Como as well. It's very interesting, I don't see those two often paired up together. But yeah, let's see. Is Como going to be a special or physical set? I'm not entirely sure. Because it could be that Dragon Bolt is a... Maybe it's Dragon Bolt special, maybe it's Como physical with Dragon Dance. Or maybe it's Dragon Bolt with the Dragon Dance and Como with Specs or Clanger Soul. We'll see, we'll see. Alright. Caledon comes in, getting the rocks on the Swampert swap. Here comes Como. Swampert getting the rocks off. Nope, Como is the standard physically offensive set. Getting good damage onto Swampert. Our Caledon does come out to try and take the Ogerpon hit. Ogerpon using Sword Stance. Does it have superpower? It power whips, but it misses, unfortunately, and the Thunder Wave does come through. Body presses clicks, he misses power whip again, very unfortunate. So we do see the body press come out on our Caledon. Tuck Specs using its eject button. Archaeodon does take a lot of damage from Masskeauuu at close combat, but is able to get KO'd right back. So that's already a big sweeper taken care of. On the side of Rain from Rio Vidal, Samurai is able to get the KO on Archaeodon. Toxpet's being swapped into Roaring Moon as a precautionary measure. We see the U-turn into Latios. Pokemon Wellspring put in as a sacrificial pawn. Luster Purge is used, and now Azick is potentially forced out. No, he is forced out into Como. Tasteless Edge being used on the side of Rio Vidal, getting a spike up. Playing its scales is okay, so it's actually a mixed set. It's not the set I thought it was. Toxapex, quick and recover, undoing most of that damage that was done. See Swampert get Luster Purged. Ooh, so Latios was not even choiced. It actually was. Seems like it may be Soldier, but yes. Yeah, this is why he swapped out the first time, is because of the Sucker Punch potential. And a Roaring Moon does get put in to avenge. He does use U-turn and goes into Dragon Bolt. This Dragon Bolt presumably is going to be special, but it could be physical still. Nope. It is special, and Rio Vidal has no bunch of immunity, so Dragon Bolt can kind of just flip this with no immunity. Samurai comes out, but Dragon Bolt is forced out due to the existence of Sucker Punch. A bold sword stance is used on the predicted switch, which will result in the death of Kugura. Xiri will slow it down though. Xiri may be a crucial slowdown, as it looks like Rio Vidal was not able to KO, but even regardless, Vacuum Wave would have KO'd the Samurai. Does he get the double predict? No, he does not. Como is able to get back Rain scales. Toxapex is put in, but Rio Vidal does forfeit honorably, as it does not look like Rio Vidal could potentially win this game. So very well played by Azick. I think this is an advantageous matchup for Dragon, as Water can't really do what it wants to do, which is just spam its very usually commonly unresisted stab on a bunch of Pokemon, boosted by Rain. All of Azick's Pokemon just naturally take less damage from Rain's main offensive weapon, so it was up to the Pokemon's secondary typings to do much, and Ogerpon doesn't really match up well into Dragon, since Dragons resist both of its stabs, and those Power Witnesses were very bad, because otherwise close combat from Masskeauuu would have been very scary, and Masskeauuu would have been in a better position to do a lot of damage that game to Azick's team, but unfortunately it did not get to do much. It was stuffed by Archaeodon very early. But yeah, Azick's team is, I wouldn't say it's very standard, but it's definitely not something super unusual. This Como set in particular, a mixed set, is not unusual either, it's just very uncommonly seen, I would say. But it did do well in this game, as the Vacuum Wave did pressure Samurai a lot in that scary endgame situation for him. So yeah, well played to both sides. Let's move on to the next match. Let's see, we got Masskeauuu versus cpt.Kraken. cpt.Kraken going for a Fairy team, and Masskeauuu going for a Walking Lake Water team with a Lumamola. So on the side of cpt.Kraken we have the two water types, which seems to be a common trend in this tournament, as I don't want to lose to Sunfire, as that is one of the scariest matchups for Fairy to deal with, if unprepared. But let's see how it matches up into a decently well put together water team. Does seem to be a pretty good matchup for it though, since 3 of its mons are weak to Fairy. Yeah, most of the offensive Pokemon, actually all the offensive Pokemon, are actually threatened out by Fairy Stab, but cpt.Kraken can get overwhelmed by Water Stab at any moment. And Greninja Greninja is a mon that is typically very crafty, so maybe Masskeauuu is picking a very devious Sludge Wave set on this Greninja. We shall see, we shall see. Alright, Severa lead with the balloon, Ceaseless Edge instantly being used, Captain Kraken immediately leaving with Play Rough, instantly getting a KO and removing Samurott from the equation. Klefki is put in, we see the U-turn come out, so that is very likely, actually we don't know for sure. It's a good chance that it is Choice Scarf though. Klefki's life gauge gets knocked off, which is actually very big on the side of Masskeauuu. We do see the Hatterene come in, and does Masskeauuu have a way to respond to this? We see the Calm Mind. Does Greninja use Sludge Wave? It looks to position 2. Now we see the U-turn come out instead. Maybe Masskeauuu is bluffing, we don't know for sure. But Walking Wake does come out. Primarina able to come in and very easily tank its Hydro Pump. We see Toxic Types, but we do see the Psychic Noise come out as a response. Psychic Noise preventing Black Sludge healing, and also preventing the Regenerator healing as not commonly seen, so we do see Psychic Noise come out again, blocking potential leftovers healing. Moonblast coming through. Primarina taking a ton of damage there, but it does use the Surf. The Surf actually KOing. That is surprising. I did not expect that much damage. Alright, so we have a confirm on the Greninja having Sludge Wave. But here comes Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane probably going to click a Ghost move, doing a ton of damage to Alomomola. Greninja not really in a good position to be able to take that Shadow Ball, so Alomomola will go down. Walking Wake does come in. You see the Hydro Pump able to get the KO on Iron Valiant. Zimmeril now comes in on the Hydro Pump. I think this may be Choice Band to Zimmeril. Yeah, this is Choice Band to Zimmeril. This is absolutely Choice Band to Zimmeril. You see the Recover. Come through on the side of Toxapex. Klefki is going to get trapped though, and it cannot escape. But it doesn't need to worry about escaping, as it is forced to stay in and get an additional spike. Zimmeril comes in on the Walking Wake. Hydro Pump doing a ton of damage to it, unfortunately, so we will see the Aqua Jet do very little damage. It does get a crit though, allowing it to get maybe a crucial amount of chip for our Flutter Mane friend here. The Moonblast does come out. You see Toxapex come in and is able to take the spikes. Cabesco win the 50-50 against the Hatterene. Captain Kraken secretly cooking a Trick Room on the Hatterene instead, flipping the script on Masskeauu's potential outplay. Greninja now unable to really do much, even if he does get the wrong prediction, yeah. Psyshock is blocked, but Greninja is still threatened. You see the Draining Kiss come out, but still have one turn of Trick Room left. Does he get the predict again? We get the Calm Mind. Greninja could potentially still KO through. No, it does not. The Psyshock going through, and unfortunately, that will be the game. So yeah. Once again, very proving to be a very powerful type, and very competitive in these matches. I'll be right back. I just have to take care of something in the background. Alright, sorry about that. Let's get back into the next match. So we have TWK versus benladil. We see a Steel Mirror. It's not something we would have expected. And we have Empoleon Steel versus a poor standard Steel team with double birds. So it is very likely that that coordinate is a setup set. Likely the bulk up set that we saw before. So interestingly enough, it doesn't have Hisuian Gudra, which is typically what is brought to prevent fire from completely steamrolling. But there's a good chance that they were not expecting fire to be brought. After all, Fire's track record so far this tournament has not been very good. So maybe they decide to overprep for a different type. We shall see. We shall see. So we see the Empoleon lead from TWK. Instant switch to our Caledon. The knockoff getting rid of its leftovers though. See it swap into Iron Treads, but Iron Treads will get forced out by Goldingo going into Skarmory. You see another double switch into Iron Treads, but unfortunately the Goldingo does get the KO straight up into Iron Treads, which means that TWK no longer has access to Rapid Spin, which could be very bad. TWK predicting the body press and getting the KO on our Caledon. Here comes the Goldingo. Empoleon coming in on the Goldingo. Able to take the Shadow Ball, but the Spadef drop is crucially going to make it unable to wall it. So our Caledon is put in instead. And is KO'd as a result. Empoleon comes back out. benladil deciding not to test his luck, allowing Empoleon to fully heal its HP. Iron Treads blanking its Earthquake into TWK. Still blinking its Earthquake into TWK, as Skarmory does use Body Press to remove its balloon. Goldingo comes in. Body Press is used, but unfortunately Goldingo now gets a free KO if it gets the Spadef drop again, which it does not this time. A knockoff is used, but unfortunately it will cost Empoleon's life, but it does significantly reduce its breaking power, which could be very good for TWK and is enough to help him turn around this match. Goldingo using Hex. See the T-Wave come onto Corviknight. U-turn is used, which means it's not the setup set. Interesting. Iron Treads coming in. Now Rocky Helmet doing a ton of chip damage. Skarmory coming in on the side of benladil. And spikes are put up. Alright, Iron Treads lost on the side of benladil. So now both sides have no access to Rapid Spin. Heatran coming in. Corviknight absorbing the paralysis that was intended for Heatran. We see the Hex come out, an unfortunate paralysis stun on the side of benladil. Hex coming through, and Corviknight getting the U-turn off into his own Goldingo. We are swapping into Heatran. He's able to take the non-specs Shadow Ball, but there is a drop, which is very unfortunate. We see Earth Power come in. Corviknight able to take that easily, as Skarmory is put in. A very, very unfortunate paralysis stun, as that could have been used for a roost. But U-turn is used. Goldingo is KO'd, however. And Heatran is put in. TWK puts in his own Heatran, but is there a read? No, there is not. The Flamethrower is absorbed by TWK's Heatran. benladil predicting the Earth Power, however. And Goldingo is put in again. Skarmory gets paralyzed, a potentially huge paralysis stun on the side of TWK. Hex is used to KO the Corviknight. Can he get the predict again with the Heatran? He does not get the predict, he loses his Skarmory. Both sides seemingly staying in. And it looks like it's going to be a game of chicken to see which one decides to leave. Well, we could just know for sure. So, oh. Okay, so it looks like TWK should be the one that wins this. Actually, not quite, because even if TWK does win, the struggle from benladil's Heatran could actually KO TWK's Heatran, which could result in it being in a favorable position, but regardless, it still has to, the Skarmory still has to deal with it, and if it's assumedly, obviously, because of the lack of use of Earth Power, obviously neither of these Heatrans are non-choice. They are both obviously they're both obviously choice. Yeah, I would say speed ties matter here, but they really don't. I think the only speed tie that will matter would probably be the one with benladil's struggle, if he is unable to get the struggle off. Or actually... No, he'll get the struggle off, regardless, I think. But, yeah. They're gonna keep doing this, because this is actually what they should do, because there's no prediction to be made. Both sides have flamethrower. Oh, he decides to swap it into Skarmory. Benladil saving a flamethrower PP as a result. Oh, the Earth Power. But the Earth Power isn't enough to KO Gholdengo, so Benladil does unfortunately fall. Yeah, the Heat Transplanting Flamethrowers, while goofy, is actually ideally what both players had to do in that situation, because as you saw, once Benladil swapped out and went for the Earth Power play, it wasn't enough to KO Gholdengo, so they just kind of had to play it like that. But yeah, his Skarmory, I think that Benladil is going to be screwed regardless because of Skarmory just not being able to do anything into Gholdengo, so very unfortunate position that he was in, but sometimes that's the way a Pokemon match will go. But good job to both players. Not much to note. The Empoleon was very impactful, as I said before. TWK was in a very rough spot, but he was able to pull back that win due to removing those choice specs, which proved to be very good. As if it wasn't for the choice specs removal, Heatran wouldn't have been able to tank that Shadow Ball and survive on the amount of HP that it did with all these spike layers up. So that was very good. I hope to see more Empoleon in this tournament, but it's going to be very unlikely because it is a very niche Pokemon. So let's move on to the next match. King Choco versus Shiba. On the side of King Choco, we have a Poison team, which is very rare for this tournament, as it allegedly loses to Gliscor solo. And we have on the side of Shiba a standard offensive dragon team with Roaring Moon. So let's see how this match goes. King Choco's team isn't very unusual at all. Standard Muck, standard Galarian Weezing, Toxapex, Amoonguss defensive or Regenerator Core, and 2 offensive Pokemon. This is pretty much standard for Poison as far as I'm aware. Alright, we see the U-turn. Knockoff instantly getting rid of that. Thunder Wave missing on the Amoonguss, which could be very crucial later. Spore is used. Both sides fall out. We see the Protect on the side of Muck come out, but it does not hit anything or protect from anything. Rain Punch is used, giving Muck a little bit of HP, but also raising Arcaldon's defense. Amoonguss coming in, confirming the heavy duty boots as well. Here comes the Thunder Wave. Thunder Wave is going to be potentially, or Paralysis is going to be very annoying for Weezing to deal with, or not Weezing, Amoonguss to deal with in the future. Weezing coming in, forcing out the Arcaldon. Creature coming in as a response, but the Defog does still go through. Will-O-Wisp is used to significantly weaken this heavy slam, which now only does a whopping 26. Toxapex comes through, the knockoff is used, and Rocky Helmet does chip down the Hisuian Goodra. Toxic is used to get some progress done on Latios, so Latios is on the timer now. And Muck is able to easily tank the Thunderbolt. Muck clicking Drain Punch again, getting some good healing, but still boosting Arcaldon's defense. Iron Moth coming in. Iron Moth going to be a massive threat. A huge overheat, getting a bunch of damage on... Dragon Bolt. We see the Draco Meteor come out. Do a bunch of damage to Toxapex, but not enough to KO. Toxapex swapping out and getting that regen healing. Muck is put in as a response to the Raging Bolt. Or actually, it's protect on the Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt forced out, and as you can see, now there is now we're in a position where Rocks is put up in front of the Iron Moth. Iron Moth using Fiery Dance, no boost in sight. The choice specs are unfortunately removed, as I believe King Choco may have been predicting a U-turn there. I was trying to achieve some progress, but unfortunately Shiba called his bluff and used knockoff. Very much ruining King Choco's plan. This could be very bad for King Choco because it is one of the few Pokemon that can get a lot of offensive progress done. Let's see how he tries to pull back from this. Drain Punch connecting again, getting a little bit of healing from Muck. This Drain Punch healing is mattering very much as well. As that 10%, it's healed like a total of 30% over this game. It would be at 57% if that Drain Punch healing didn't do anything. So that healing is coming in very clutch. Slowly chipping away at the Archaludon, also slowly healing is very good on the side of King Choco. We see the swap out into Raging Bolt, but the Defog does go through. A Thunderbolt Paralysis may be potentially detrimental to King Choco, and it is, as King Choco is stunned. We do see Shiba go back into Archaludon though, Muck getting healing. Logice comes in, but the Calm Mind going to potentially ruin a Pokemon, and this Pokemon would be Iron Moth. King Choco putting in his Muck. Drain Punch is used, but it's nothing as Dragon Ball comes, it takes it easily. Muck goes for the Protect, and is able to call out the Flamethrower, which it can easily take, but he does not choose to keep taking damage and goes into Stock Specs instead. The better play. Swaps into Okidogi, predicting the Hisuian Gudra, and it clicks Substitute. See a Dragon Tail miss. Now, due to it being burned, I believe that miss would not have mattered, due to the substitute still going to be intact. Okidogi clicking Bulk Up. Oh, another substitute used. Are we seeing a potential cheese here? No. It's just using a Drain Punch. Okidogi very healthy, but it is forced out by that very, very scary Latios. Latios. But yeah, Draco Meteor comes out. Muck does get paralyzed again. It may have been a Protect, we don't know for sure. Draco Meteor dropped, which allows for a Galarian Weezing swap. Thunderbolt successfully KOing Galarian Weezing. Okidogi being put in again as a response. Okidogi able to tank the Thunderbolt, but doesn't do a ton with Rain Punch. A very risky stay-in from the side of King Choco, because that Thunderbolt could have potentially killed. But he does get rewarded, and the Drain Punch does KO. Toxapex suffering from a defense Spadef drop from the Shadow Ball. Muck comes in, resisting, but doesn't get parried. It does not get parried, fortunately for King Choco. So the Choice Specs is removed, but it doesn't matter because Dragon Bolt is gone. See Amoonguss get swapped in into the Draco Meteor. Muck gets put into the subsequent Draco Meteor, which does 20%. Ooh, are we going to see Amoonguss come back out again? No, we see a Protect. And Muck should be able to tank this Draco Meteor as well. Latios still on that timer, taking a ton of damage from Toxic. We get the Double Switch Predict by King Choco. Or not the Double Switch Predict, but the Switch Predict by King Choco. And as I said before, the Dragon Tail does not do enough damage to break the substitute, so we are going to see a big Drain Punch land. 27% heal on Okidogi. Heavy Slam, not enough to KO. That burn proving it to be very useful. See another Drain Punch come through. 2 gooey procs, but it doesn't seem to matter, as Okidogi is already slower than Latios. Latios freely picking Luster Purge, but as we know, is it choice? It is not choice. So obviously, I think that should be not because he used Luster Purge right then and there. But we do see the Wiggles come out now. Does King Choco get paralyzed? Oh, he gets paralyzed, but the miss on Draco Meteor, still KOing Shiba. Oh, that was a crazy ending to that game. The unfortunate Paris stun, but it not matter because he misses the Draco Meteor. Oh, that is very sad. That is an unfortunate end to that game, but well played to King Choco for keeping his head held high and just keeping up with that match, as it was getting very difficult for him, but he did play very well consistently and was able to slowly wear down. He got very few big wins. He played a very strategic game, I believe, because he got the burn on Gudra, knowing that it would be useful for him dealing with Okidogi later. He got the Toxic onto Gladios, slowly chipping it down and forcing it to make more aggressive plays. Just very solid play from King Choco. And Poison looking very good in this particular matchup, but I believe in some other matchups it may not fare so well. Well, we shall see as the tournament progresses how Poison does. But this is a pretty good showing, I would say. So good job to King Choco for believing in Poison and making this work. But let's move on to the next match. RoyalReloaded versus Fentropy. We have RoyalReloaded using Rainwater, thankfully not flying. And we have Fentropy using a Steel team with Jirachi. Now, what this Jirachi set could be, I'm not sure. Looking at the team, I could maybe potentially guess that it's a Choice Scarf or Physical Choice Scarf set with U-Turn, Iron Head, and a couple of other moves. But I'm not 100% sure. It could be special set, because on Steel, historically, Jirachi has used special sets due to Steel just generally not having a ton of special attackers. So Jirachi could be used for that. But he has Goldingo and Heatran right there, so I'm not 100% sure. It is very possible that it could still be that, though. And on the side of RoyalReloaded, we have a Kingdra Brain team. I think it's the same team we saw before. So let's see how this goes. No Proverbs this time, thank goodness. Pelipper is put in immediately and uses U-turn, Skarmory getting a spike off. Kingdra gets swapped in, and Fentropy is in a scary situation. As there's a Kingdra in front of him. Yeah, there's a 50-50 that had to be made there. So Heatran is removed from the fight, but don't worry, Heatran being gone isn't as impactful as you would think, as this is a water team, and most water teams don't have a fire move on them, unless you have like Volcanion or something. So that won't matter too much for Steel, but it is still a big loss regardless. We do see another flip turn into Surf. Kingdra just doing a ton of work in this matchup. We see Pelipper come in again. Archaludon laying down a giant Draco Meteor, but we see Hisuian Samurott come in as a response. Skarmory coming in. See a Ceaseless Edge. I thought there would have maybe been a water move there, but now we do see Ceaseless Edge instead. Kingdra gets put in again. Surf being used. Now this is its last turn of rain, so how will Kingdra use it? He'll use it like that, getting a ton of damage onto Archaludon. Very big progress made by the Kingdra though. Hopefully the remaining Pokemon can clean up, but it may be a tough situation. Archaludon will get KO'd, but we still don't know what this Jirachi is capable of. What will this Jirachi have? Well, Goldingo is also very scary, but what this Jirachi is could potentially change the game. So yeah, Surging Strikes will KO here. What will Jirachi do? Is it Choice Scarf with a physical move? It is Choice Scarf with Psychic Noise. And yeah, just like that, the game is over. But yeah. So my prediction wasn't entirely wrong. I thought it would be a Choice Scarf physical set, but it was a Choice Scarf special set instead. Which isn't entirely surprising. It's also very possible that this could be a mixed physical set, and not mixed as in I have U-turn and 3 special moves. It's mixed like actually Iron Head, a special move, etc, etc. But yeah, that was, I mean, we only got to see the Psychic Noise from Jirachi, but I think the Psychic Noise could have been very good against a lot of the fatter teams that have been brought in this MWP, so I'm interested to see if this team comes out again, because I'm kind of interested in seeing this Jirachi do a lot of work, and I want to see it do a little bit more. But yeah, well played, good building by Fentropy. RoyalReloaded did try to play that as well as he could, but unfortunately Fentropy's team was a little bit too quick for him. So let's move on to the next match. Alright, we have Losco versus Twinkay. Twinkay using a normal team. Very standard normal team as well. With Losco using Bug. Now this is a matchup I would have never guessed that would have gotten played in WP, but here we are. Bug versus normal. Now, as to which side has the advantage, I believe Bug should be in the driver's seat for this game, seeing as it has a full Corona and low kicks against the normals. Less than ideal defensive point to deal with those two, so Losconosciuto does completely stonewall full Corona, but it needs to be careful, as it can potentially get outstalled by it with certain sets, and potentially overwhelmed, but Losco also needs to be careful with Hisuian Zoroark, because that, depending on what that mod runs, it could be a massive threat to his team. We also don't know what Terrapagos has. It could be Rapid Spin, it could be full setup sweeper, we do not know for sure. So let's see how this match goes. Is it Blissey? Is it not Blissey? We don't know. Alright, it is Blissey. We get the Thunder Wave off immediately, and that could be very annoying for people to deal with, especially if he has to face Terrapagos later. See Ursaluna come in, but it has leftovers and no Burn Orb, likely doing the Conkelder strat I did a couple gens ago. Liquidation not doing a ton of damage, and we see the default come through on Braviary. Braviary using Roost, allowing it to take the Volt Switch a bit easier than it would have normally. And Cleavor coming back out. You see Ursaluna come in as a response, but instead we see a close combat instead of the Stone Axe. Ursaluna is still able to take that close combat very well, though. Drain Punch coming out, and leftovers, so once again healing back up. Braviary comes out again, taking the liquidation very easily. Cleavor comes back out to try and get some progress done. See Ursaluna come out again. This time it does get to protect with Stone Axe. You see Arachnid come in. Headlong Rush is used, but does very little to Arachnid. Braviary is put in. Cleavor is put in as a response on the predicted Braviary. Close combat is used, and now Ursaluna is in a bit of a tight spot. Headlong Rush is used into the Arachnid, but Arachnid does still take very little from it. Arachnid using Surf, doing the shockingly the same amount of damage to Braviary. Braviary uses Brave Bird on the Cleavor. Cleavor does get paralyzed, which is unideal for Losco. That is not Braviary. Yeah. So you see that come out. Bullet Punch KOing the Ursaluna. But now here comes Terrapagos. Terrapagos not heavy duty boots. So this may be the full Calm Mind leftover set that I was talking about before. Terra Star started doing a ton of damage to Volcarona there. And this is something I didn't really speak about a lot, but Terrapagos with the setup set is actually shockingly scary with Terra Starstone, because Terra Starstone is a 120 base power move that it has stab on. But no repercussion, it's just 100% accuracy, 0 repercussion. That bird is also very crucial for Terrapagos, by the way. Losco does go and click knockoff, but Terrapagos just getting a ton done. Look at how much damage Terrapagos has done to this team. It's actually very, very impressive. But yeah, now Losco's down to his last 2 mons, but those last 2 mons do tend to be the scariest late game mons in the game. So you do see a knockoff come out on Caesar. Caesar taking the Brave Bird. Lizzie gets put in and perishes to the Bullet Punch. We see Ditto come in. What moves does Losco have to take advantage of her? Okay, so the knockoff is used, and I believe that should be game. Yeah. Without knowledge of knowing that Bug and Normal are considered 2 lower tier types, this did look like a very good showing for both types, actually. But yeah, Twinkay showing how scary Terrapagos can get once it gets a Calm Mind up, and it gets a good situation to put in front of it. Terrapagos arguably scarier than Volcarona, I would say, as a sub-sweeper. Only difference is that Terrapagos does not have recovery like Volcarona does, and Volcarona has more PP on its moves. But when it can get to hit, Terrapagos can do a ton of damage, as you saw in this match. So yeah, very good showing of Normal in this match. So very good job to Twinkay. And let's move on to the next match. Yeah, Leafeonlol versus Tare25. Tare using the Rain team with Primarina, and Kingdra with Leafeonlol using Dragon. And this time it's using Raging Bolt and Walking Wake at the same time. So let's see how this match goes. Okay, see Primarina, Raging Bolt lead. Volt Switch instantly KOing the Primarina. Oh, this is the team with no Ledger community, so this is actually going to be very bad for Tare. Kingdra comes in. We do see the Draco Meteor able to KO the Walking Wake, but the real question is, how will it deal with the Raging Bolt later? Samurott gets put in as a response to Gudra's existence. Dragon Tail is used and forces out Pelipper. We get the reveal of Gooey. Dragon Tail is used but misses on the Samurott, which could be very detrimental to Leafeonlol's plan. Ceaseless Edge is used and a spike is set up. Arcaldon getting a defense boost of stamina. Pelipper is put in and sets up the rain again. Arcaldon using that time to put up Stealth Rock. Draco Meteor is put down, but it does not KO Pelipper. Pelipper potentially able to come in again. Kingdra now able to start shooting off very powerful Draco Meteors. Okay, first Draco Meteor misses, which actually is very bad for him because he needed that pressure early. So the Dragon Tail does come out. Urshifu is taken out of the fight, and Toxapex is put in. Toxapex uses its recover, but nothing is switching into this Raging Bolt, so a KO is going to come through on the side of Leafeonlol. Tare setting up the rain again, and this time hard swapping into Urshifu. It seems like he wants to really try and take advantage of Kingdra's rain. Suyin Samurott comes out. Probably gonna see a Sword Stance here. Yep. And Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword does come out, but Dragapult is put in as a prediction. Sucker Punch is used to try and KO. The double Wisp Miss is very sad, though. That is very sad. Alright, we do see... Okay, so we have to play... Yeah, they have to play a 50-50 there. That was actually a really hard 50-50 for Tari to win, and thankfully they won that though. And I think that may actually be the game as well, because he lost that 50-50. Sacred Sword coming through. Yeah, just like that. Even with Raging Bolt, Tari was able to wield the team and actually... Yeah, the double Wisp Miss was definitely very bad though. Tari was able to win this matchup, but the double Wisp Miss is the main reason why, because if he was able to get a burn onto the Samurats, that would have been very crucial, because it wouldn't have been able to KO Raging Bolt with a Ceaseless Edge. So, very sad for Leafeonlol. Played it well, but unfortunately it is Pokemon, so there will be hacks, and Tari was able to win as a result. But yeah, even in this game, if we ignore the hacks, we can see that the offensive pressure that Kingdra and Hisuian Samurai provide, the offensive pressure that Hisuian Samurai and Kingdra provide on this team makes it so that these electric type Pokemon don't really see the ability to do as much as they would like to. And there also aren't really that many electric type Pokemon in the meta right now, or a lot of electric type moves are used. The main electric type users are non-electric types, which are Masquerada with Thunder Punch. Raging Bolt is the obvious exception, and then Latios, arguably. And there's the entire electric, and Iron Hands, but Iron Hands is just a threat to water in general, so that's not really that new, but that thing can also be overwhelmed by very powerful moves, especially with Hisuian Samurai setup, so yeah, that is it for my analysis of this game. Let's move on to the next one. Second and last game will be between Memphis and Chaitanya. We see Memphis with the Basket Legion female. This is the same team we saw earlier, and it's against Chaitanya with a Caesar Steel team. Let's see how this goes. I hope to see Basket Legion do something this game. I want to see how useful it can be. So immediately we leave with Basket Legion, forcing out the Skarmory. That's already more than it did last time. And it's been F-drop onto Heatran. Swampert gets put in, but the Chaitanya does make use of that time to put up Stealth Rock. See Stealth Rock on Swampert put in as response. So Skarmory starts setting up its spikes. Swampert using Flip Turn, but taking a bit of chip from Rocky Helmet. Basket Legion coming in, clicking a Shadow Wall. Ooh, it clicks the Hydro Pump to KO instantly the Heatran. Very, very nice play. We see Sui and Samurott with heavy duty boots come in on the Shadow Ball. See Ceaseless Edge come through on the side of Memphis, getting a spike up. Slowking comes in, gets whirlwinded out by Discovery. We see a hard switch into Basket Legion. Basket Legion going to click what? Is it Hydro Pump? Nope. We see a Shadow Ball come through. Now is the Archaludon. Nope, the Archaludon's not scarfed, so it will get KO'd. Basket Legion doing a lot of work here, actually, against the Steel team, as it lacks a dark type. So Shadow Ball kind of just does a lot of damage, and honestly, both of its sets are actually kind of scary against Steel, especially with the lack of a Ferrothorn. But we do see the knockoff finally KO the Basket Legion. That was with a Choice Scarf, by the way. Adaptability really going overtime for that mon, but you see the failed Sucker Punch. Ceaseless Edge is going to connect onto the Goldingo though. Chaitanya putting in Skarmory. He doubles out into Iron Treads and possibly looking for a spin. He does successfully get the spin off, removing the hazards, but the damage has been greatly done to his team. Can Caesar bring this match back with a Trailblaze set? We shall see. A crit knockoff, removing Conspex's heavy duty boots. See a Sword Stance and a forced recover on the side of Memphis. Keep seeing another knockoff. Seems like Chaitanya intends to outstall Memphis here, as Knockoff does have a lot of pieces, as does Sword Stance. So he's going to keep clicking Sword Stance. He decides to swap out into Skarmory to try and get more spikes off. But he could just be doing this to pivot. Nope, he just gets another spike off. Full layer spikes now on the field. Skarmory using Roost to try and stay alive. Probably going to see a Whirlwind come through. Nope, we see a Body Press instead. Stealth Rock going up on the side of Chaitanya. Body Press is used again. Knockoff is used to remove the Rocky Helmet, which could be very important for Shifu, most importantly. Body Press will come through, but it does not do much damage to Slowking. See a Scald. Scald not doing much. Body Press. Scald finally getting a burn. Roost is used, and Slowking does use Chilly Reception to swap it to Urshifu, who can now hit Skarmory without any repercussion as his Rocky Helmet is gone. Still not doing a ton of damage, and it gets Whirlwinded out. Swampert is forced in, confirming the heavy duty boots. They had been confirmed earlier, I wasn't paying attention. Skarmory is KO'd by the burn. Here comes Urshifu. Do we see a Trailblaze? We will not see anything because it is a crit close combat that will instantly KO the Caesar. And there we go. It was nice to see Masskeauuu Legion. I got exactly what I wanted. I got to see Masskeauuu Vidal do something, and I'm going to say I'm very impressed with what it's able to do. It hits very hard for a Choice Scarfer, so adaptability doing a ton of work for that on essentially giving it, on its stabs at least, it's giving it a Choice Specs boost, which is very powerful. Choice, because as anyone who's played I believe Gen 8 Ice, the Gen 8 or Gen 7 Ice, I think it was Gen 8 Ice, that had a Guerrilla Tactics, Darmanitan, Alolan, was it Alolan? I can't remember what form that Darmanitan was, but basically Darmanitan, the Ice Darmanitan with Guerrilla Tactics, Choice Scarf, Choice Band, we know how good that can be. So yeah, Masskeauuu Legion being able to do a slightly lesser version of that is definitely still good, and it's coming off of a good special attacking stat as well. And it also provides utility in being a ghost type, so just blocks Rapid Spin, it's immune to trapping. You can also eat normal moves if need be. But yeah. Very, very nice showing of Masskeauuu Legion in this game. And Slowking also doing surprisingly well. I'm not sure, well, I can't say I'm not sure why Slowking is used. Slowking is definitely a good special wall, but it just doesn't really find itself getting used a lot. But it seems like on this team it's very good. So it seems to do a very good regen core with top specs, which I think is the main idea. But yeah, that's it for this match. Let's move on to the final match, which is between Feen and Sificon. Very nice custom avatars from both sides. But we do see a Rain-Water team, a more traditional Rain-Water team, versus a Steel team, with Caesar as the Source Dancer. So let's see how this goes. We see the Instant Rock set up by Heatran, Swampert knocking off Heatran's leftovers, confirming that it is leftovers. Stealth Rock put down the Caesar. I think that's Choice Band damage using U-turn on Swampert, getting a ton of damage off. The Rocky Helmet does get removed as Swampert does quick knockoff against the Skarmory. Flip Turn is used. Lucky Wave takes the chip damage from Skarmory. Skarmory's Rocks and Spikes. Hydro Pump does come through. I feel like that's the third time in a row we've seen that. KOing the Heatran, Archelodon comes in, clicks the Draco Meteor on Swampert. Flopper is now gone, and if his Goldingo has Thunderbolt, that could be very dangerous for Feen. Infestation coming through, but Goldingo is obviously not trapped due to it being a ghost type. The air balloon does get popped though, which could be a problem later. Samurott clicking a Ceaseless Edge and getting those spikes off. Will we see a Rapid Spin? We do see a Rapid Spin from Sificon. Another Ceaseless Edge is done though. Do we see a Sucker Punch? We do not. And we do see an Earthquake come through and KO the Hisuian Samurott, so no more spikes. Barraskewda comes in, does a whopping ton of damage to Skarmory. Does Sificon call the bluff? No, it's not. He goes into Goldingo to try and predict the close combat. Skarmory comes out again and is sacked to deal with Walking Wake's Rampage. Here comes our Caledon to take the Hydro Steam, but he swaps into Iron Treads to go for a potential Rapid Spin. Instead of going for the aggressive Earthquake and getting the eject button off, Brain still hasn't been set up on the side of Feen. Flip Turn is used to KO the Iron Treads, but Iron Treads did get a lot of damage onto Toxapex, so it might be harder for Toxapex to come in and wall the next attack. Especially with those chip damage. Yep, there's the Thunderbolt. Barraskewda comes in now. Is our Caledon able to tank? Well, the Barraskewda uses Flip Turn, so Walking Wake is put in. Do we see a Thunderbolt? Thunderbolt is put into Walking Wake, and that is going to be very crucial. I believe at this point, does he go? He goes for the Predict. He gets the Predict as well. Very stylish. And yep, just like that, the game's over. Because Pelipper does not have Defog. So it's just going to slowly die to Hex, and Barraskewda is going to die to Hazards. Yeah. So there we go. That is it for this week's MWP. Well played to both Sificon and Feen. Sificon played this very solidly, I would say. As the only comment I can really make, I don't really have much else to say. It's very standard Rain gameplay, very standard Steel gameplay. But yeah, Sificon played well. But yeah, with that being said, I think I did remember saying it before in our previous video that I would do a mid-week checkup, or a mid-season checkup on the meta. Due to the timing of it being Christmas time around the release of this video, I don't think I'll be able to do that, and I won't be able to do it this week. I'll do it next week, after week 5 is finished. So it won't really be a mid-season thing. It's gonna be like a little after mid-season, but you know, it's okay. I think it'll be fine. But yeah, it's really just unfortunate timing because of Christmas when MWP started and when week 4 lined up. So yeah, I will be doing a video for that. Regular uploads of me talking about stuff is probably not going to happen until after MWP ends, if you're curious about that. And that is pretty much it for announcements for the channel. I may end up posting a meme about the heat train interaction that we saw this game, but yeah, that'll be it for this week's video. So thank you for sticking out with me if you watched the entire thing, or if you're only watching the end game to see the TLDR. But yeah, TLDR, this week's games were much shorter, a lot shorter than the ones last time, and games were overall just very good. So yeah, we got to see Normal actually become a very threatening type, look extremely scary with Terrapagos. We got to see Fairy once again be a powerful type as well. We've been seeing a lot of, we saw Basket Legion, female on water, do a lot of work, and we've also seen a ton of Walking Wake actually. Walking Wake is actually a mon I haven't really seen a ton when I was doing my lightering, getting back into this metagame. So it's actually really nice to see how this thing gets used, and it seems to be a very solid mon, so I might try to do some teams with it in the future when I play off screen. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.